What's up, guys? Welcome to Broke and Stressed, a PT student podcast where we talk about our lives as broke and stressed physical therapy students. Throughout grad school, you'll come to find that the struggles that you're having happen all the time to thousands of students across the country. You are not alone. In this podcast, we'll share our personal stories and walk you through how we overcame some of our own struggles. I'm your host, Ruben. Let's have some fun, have some good conversation, and let's get into the episode. Guys, welcome back. Today we have Colleen, one of my great friends that I've made through PT school. Finally have her on the podcast. I'm excited to have her here today.
Finally made it.
She
So
made
excited.
it. And guys, just so you know, I just been wrapped up with my clinical day, so that's why I'm like in the gym right here, but no one else is here. But yeah, Colleen, why don't you go ahead and take a second to introduce yourself? Tell the crowd who you are.
Yes. That's such a hard question to answer. Who am I?
Who really are you? Let's get deep. Let's dig real deep.
Yeah. My name's Colleen Shear. I am an almost graduate of UIC's DPT program. I went to U of I for my undergrad. I am one of Ruben's really good friends. We are BFFs.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Right now, I'm in the process of applying for residencies and also applying for jobs pretty much all around the country. So that's really interesting. I like long walks on the beach.
There you go. Candlelit dinners.
Oh, yeah.
Gotta have the candlelit dinners.
Oh, yeah.
All right, Colleen. So we like to start off this podcast by sharing a couple embarrassing moments from PT school, but you have... You have more than a couple, I'd say. You have like a good handful.
Yes.
Colleen has a knack for getting herself in situations and just making us all laugh.
Yeah, and very unintentionally, I would say.
And it's great. It's real good comedic relief for us just as we're dying in class. But why don't you go ahead and share a couple that can come off top of your head?
Man, where do I start? Well, before I start really talking about my embarrassing moments, I just want to say that this is school. Don't be afraid to like go out on a limb to answer wrong questions or do something that you don't think, like you might not know what the correct answer is, but like go for it. Mm-hmm. And that's honestly, with that said, that's been a lot of sources of embarrassment for me. I was one of those people who like I would always be afraid to be wrong. So when I started grad school, I'm like, I need to get over this fear. So I would just confidently yell out answers that like 100% were wrong. Like, and I like, yeah, that was a lot of laughs. I've had a few professors actually laugh at me, but it was all in like good fun, you know. They're just like, absolutely not, like,
yeah,
confidently, definitely not true.
Dude, that's something I struggle with a lot, and that's why I don't raise my hand unless I'm like 1,000% sure I have the answer. Because like, damn, I don't want to look stupid in front of all these smart people.
Yeah, exactly. And like, that's just the one thing I really try to overcome, and I still have issues doing that.
I like that.
For an example, the first day of lab, any kind of lab we've had, like, so we're in, the room with all the plinths. Our professor asked for a volunteer, and I immediately raise my hand. I go up to volunteer, and he's like, okay, lay down prone on this bed, basically. And I confidently lay down supine. I had no idea what prone was. And I'm like waiting for him to keep talking, and he just keeps looking at me, and he's like, prone. And I'm like, what do you mean prone? Like I am. And he's like, no, like lay on your stomach. And I was just like, cool. First day, confidently wrong about that.
Good start to PT school.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that was just the beginning of it. Man.
What are some other good ones?
Yeah,
dude, there's like one every week, and it's so funny. And I love you for it.
Yeah, right.
And we all love you for it. And it's just great.
There was one time when we had to basically, we just went over like motor patterns, or like how people when they have like a motor pattern that they realize like they have, and trying to reverse it with the other hand is like pretty difficult.
Yeah.
And so we had one of our professors had like a maze up on the board that we would do like on a computer, and you would go up and try to complete it with one hand and then try to do it with the same hand but backwards. And I was so bad at it that the professor laughed and said, I honest to God didn't know it could take someone this long to do this.
Oh my God.
That was really good. I've tripped a lot going up to do presentations. There was one practical in particular, remember this, it was for cardiopulmonary class. We had to talk about, there's a practical of trying to figure out, if it's angina, like myocardial infarction, if it's PVD, PAD, any of those fun things. And I came to the right conclusion. I knew it was it was something to do with, I knew it was PVD, but for some reason I forgot that the V meant vascular and not vein. And I was talking to the proctor. I was like, I know it's not PVD because that would be veins. And I went on this kind of a minute long talk about how it's definitely not the veins that's causing it. And the proctor was just looking at me. It was just like, it's PVD. You just don't know what PVD is apparently. So that was good. Yeah.
And I feel like in those moments when you're doing those practical exams, they're just staring at you and they're giving you the most blank looks. And no matter what, if you're right, you're questioning yourself.
Yes, you were questioning yourself.
They're there to make you feel like you don't have the right answer, even though you do. Yes. So it's kind of crappy.
Yeah, but also, again, great skill because in the clinic, again, you'll just have a patient and you'll be again, I think it's this. And you can easily convince yourself it's not, but most of the time I found that it is what your original hunch is.
Yeah, you gotta trust your gut. Man, okay, that's enough embarrassing moments for today. I'm sure if you guys have seen some of my vlogs, you've probably seen Colleen in almost every one of them.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, she's
doing something.
Good stuff.
Embarrassing.
But let's talk about another topic. Dude, we're graduating.
We're graduating.
Isn't that weird?
It's so crazy.
3 years ago or 2, whatever.
I guess honest to God, I didn't know. I didn't think I would make it.
Dude, we freaking made it.
Yeah. Doctors.
That's wild.
Technically.
Do I feel ready? Kinda, but are we ever ready?
Yeah. I mean, I think the biggest realization I've had in the past few months is coming to terms with, even though I'm DPT, I don't have all the answers. I still I thought 3 years ago I thought once I graduated I would be able to confidently take any PT job that I could, and that's simply not the case. And if there are any people that tell you that that's the case, then I think honestly that's wrong. There's still so much that needs to be learned, and these aren't things that you can learn through class or through textbook. It's just through clinical experience. Years and years of clinical experience.
Yeah, it really comes down to the reps and just treating the patients and just being in the clinic, because a lot of learning it in the textbook's great, but applying it is the most important part. Can you apply all the stuff that you learned with a real life person in front of you? And that's the test.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's the crazy part about PTs. No one's gonna ever know everything. And that's kind of cool. Even my CI was asking some people for what they would have done in some situations. No one's gonna be perfect.
I had so my last clinical was an amazing experience because everyone there was either went through residency and had their OCS, or went through fellowship training. Yeah. And even then, they would constantly be bouncing ideas off each other and always asking each other for opinions, and always kind of searching for a flaw in their argument or a flaw in their thinking, and trying to find out if they were doing everything correctly, because they still again didn't really have all the answers.
Yeah, and that literally takes time to build that confidence up. And it'll be hard. That's why I think it's important to have either mentorship or you're applying for residency, so that's gonna be cool.
Yeah, if I get it, let's be clear. And again, the biggest thing I'm looking for outside of residency is just a place that I can work at that has mentors. That is the most important thing for me.
Yeah, for sure. Because even the first year out, I heard it's terrifying just being on your own. I can't even think about just being on my own right now. Even if my CI is just standing there doing nothing, I'd rather have him just stand there if I have a question.
Yeah. Exactly.
But yeah, but let's take a second and just think about how PT school was, and like everyone should know, if you're listening to this or watching this, whatever, everyone should know going into PT school, that is, getting in is hard. I
Hmm.
think getting in might be harder than, actually, I don't even know. That's debatable. But PT school is
It's
hard.
hard.
Don't get me wrong. Like, it is time consuming.
Hmm.
It is difficult. Is it what you expected when you first
No,
heard about it?
not what I expected, really. I thought that it was going to be a lot easier than it was, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew it was going to be difficult. Like I knew that, not as hard as this was. And it really just made me have to become a completely different kind of student.
Yeah.
In undergrad, I was used to being able to study whenever I wanted. Like I could stay up super late because my classes didn't start until a certain time the next day.
Yeah.
You were really free to do whatever you want. And I mean, in grad school, you still are, but it's so structured. Like we had a policy where we had to go to every class, which, I mean, was very difficult for me to do because I would study best usually like 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. But there's no way I could have done that in grad school.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was just really a nonstop, study fest for a year, more than a year. I would say you would get some breaks, but like even on your time off, like you should be reviewing things.
Yeah.
But the thing I struggled most with was applying what I've learned.
Mm-hmm.
Again, undergrad, like, I would take Chem 1, Chem 2, go to Orgo Chem, and then that was kind of it. And then same with like my kinese classes, once those classes were done, like, that was kind of it. But with this, like you had to keep recalling what you've learned before, but then you have to like use the information you learned in a whole new context. So when you're learning like anatomy and neuro, instead of that just being like concrete things, you have to use those concepts that you learned in musculoskeletal dysfunction, and you have to know how to use those like while like putting your hands on a patient and reasoning through the data that you get from a patient. And it's so much application, and I was not used to that, to be honest.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How many hours of work did you put in like weekly? I remember we'd spend some long days at the library. We'd spend hours there, get some food, get some coffee, then come back,
Mm-hmm.
and like that was our life. Like
That was our entire
we
life.
lived at the library
Mm-hmm.
for forever.
And I loved it, to be honest.
Yeah, it was fun. It had some good times in the library.
So I would usually wake up at 6 a.m. I would get to campus at 6:30 in the morning. I would work out. We had class at 9. We usually have class for like 5 to 6 hours, I would say, sometimes up to 8 hours. And then I would stay at the library until 9 p.m. or 10 p.m. every night.
Yeah.
So
that's
a
what
lot.
it is.
Yeah.
Man, were you a procrastinator in undergrad?
Oh my gosh, yes.
Did that change with PT school, or do you think it got better?
It changed. It gets better, and then it gets worse, kind of, depending on the class or what the project is. You will get to a point where you will have no choice, but like you have to just battle through this. Like you have to do this assignment now because you will literally not have a chance to do it later.
Mm-hmm.
And you know that your best, like you will do your best work if you start doing it now as opposed to later. But there's still honestly some assignments where like I will be so mentally exhausted, and I'm like, the only way I'll be able to complete this is if I had that extra pressure that it's due tomorrow.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Man, yeah. There are times, it did get better in a sense, and sometimes I got lazier and lazier. I feel like COVID didn't help with anything.
Yes.
COVID kind of made it way worse.
Way worse, definitely. And I think that has to do with a lot of like motivation. I mean, it's hard to like have your eyes on the prize when like you're just staring at a screen.
Yeah.
Also, like we had a really tight knit class, and we would always be like kind of cheering each other on and reminding people to do this and offering to help with something.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, that helped so much with assignments and like studying, because there was always someone that you could kind of rely on to keep you honest and to keep you motivated.
Yeah. That's true, because there'll be days like, yo, you guys going to the library? I'm like, shit, I wasn't going to, but now I feel
Yeah,
like crap because I'm not gonna go and
exactly.
Colleen's going, so I better freaking go or like
Yeah.
make up my studying somehow. So I
Mhm.
did like the fact that we kept each other accountable.
Yeah. With that said, though, I would warn every student, every grad student, undergrad student to never compare yourself to another person.
So
Um,
true. Oh my God.
mhm. Like I think it might have seemed like I had my life together first year because I worked out almost every day. I was always at the library. I got pretty good grades and like I went out, but like I was like not fully there. Like I was half a person.
Half
Um,
a person.
yeah, and like just because someone seems like they're getting the hang of something doesn't mean they do. And also, just because you don't understand something right now doesn't mean you won't ever understand it.
Yeah.
Um, I know people will talk about imposter system syndrome for like ever. Um, and it's really something hard that everyone I feel like has to overcome. And the best way to do that is just to not compare yourself to other people.
Yeah. Like it's not gonna, just because you don't know something, it's not gonna be a measure of you as a person, like at
Yes.
all. Like you, so what if you're taking a little bit longer to you have to review
Hmm.
something a little bit more? That's not a reflection of you at all. Just,
Yes.
just put in the work. Don't, like she said, don't compare yourself. There'll be
Hmm.
people that are excelling obviously excelling, but you don't know what they're struggling with. And
Hmm.
you'd be surprised talking
Yeah.
to a lot of like our classmates. I'm like, dang, you're struggling with this. Like,
Yeah.
so am I. Like,
Yeah. It's really bizarre to see that.
mhm,
I think another important thing to talk about when we're talking about the transition from undergrad to grad school is in undergrad, I was straight A's, got A's on everything. I put effort into it, not as much effort as I did in grad school, but like I was excelling very
yeah,
well.
hmm,
Grad school, you will not have that same amount of success. And you have to take again your self worth. You have to find other reasonings or meaning behind your self worth besides grades. Because honestly, grades, yeah, of course, important. You need to pass, but knowing the information is a lot more important. And you're just not going to get that same validation as you did in undergrad.
hmm, absolutely. Now,
Mhm.
did you ever feel burnt out with how much work you're putting in and like studying and like the effects, negative effects on your like mental and physical health, like all the
Mhm.
stuff we were doing in school?
Completely. So little background, I have like a learning disability. I have ADHD. So that was really difficult in the beginning and honestly all throughout my grad school experience. And I feel like that led me to burnout a lot. And
Hmm.
I realized I would keep trying to go, 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 but it ended up I had to just take a break because my health was deteriorating. I ended up getting, I have an autoimmune disease too. And like that kind of just like really like how hard I pushed myself really exacerbated all the symptoms that I was getting.
Yeah.
Um, and honestly, I think it's so important in order to avoid burnout is to just got to take a break.
Hmm.
You have to do things for yourself. So like my biggest like release from stress and from burnout again was going to concerts. So I would go to concerts like you can ask anyone in my class once or twice a month. It was honestly borderline absurd, but like those are the things that kept me sane. And
Absolutely.
yes, yeah. And I feel like there are definitely times where I could have gotten better grades on an assignment or done better on an exam if I didn't go to this concert. But I would have, burnt out completely. Like I would
Yeah.
have just lost kind of like a piece of myself.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember one time he was a third year. No, he was a second year at the time, and we were first years, and it was finals week. And then he was like, "Hey, I have a ticket for the 1975 concert. Does anyone want it?" And I was like, "You know what? Forget. I'm just gonna go. I
Yeah.
just bought it from him. I'm like, you know what? I put in the work. I'm gonna reward myself with a little
Hmm.
break. Go to this concert. Do I regret it? Nope. I think I did okay on the exam. I don't remember,
Yeah.
but I stayed sane. And that's super key for just
Hmm.
your longevity, your own health.
Yeah.
Like people underestimate that. So what other ways did you, other than concerts, what else did you do personally to kind of debrief and take breaks?
Working out helped so much.
Mm-hmm.
It's ironic because I'm now in the past year I had like some health issues, so I wasn't able to really work out. But like that first year and most of the second year, that was completely necessary. If you're like, I understand, especially because where I am now, but like if you're exhausted and you can't work out, like don't beat yourself up about it. But again, I would try to just stay as active as you can. So important. And I mean, we all learned that. So, but I mean, I feel like that really, like that helped so much. Trying to not let your guilty pleasures like guilt you too much.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a big book nerd. If I get a good book, I will read it all in one night. And I mean, I like physically like didn't allow myself to read a book for like a year and a half,
Mm-hmm.
which is a horrible decision because like I've missed it. So like you can't cut out all the things that you enjoy.
Yeah.
I mean, just simple hangouts with your friends.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would say like those are my top ways that I kind of regrouped as a person.
Yeah. People say, or I guess people are worried often with saying like, oh, you're starting grad school, like I'll see you in 3 years. You're not gonna have a
Yeah.
social life. But you definitely did have a social life. So
Yes.
what are your comments to that, I guess, stereotype?
Mm-hmm. I mean, it wasn't easy to have like a really active social life during grad school, I will say. I put a lot of work in during the week. I like hustled really hard in order to like have that Friday night or Saturday night off.
Mm-hmm.
There are definitely some times where I think I went out a little bit too much. I think I would have benefited from a night or two in, but for some reason, like I just like I had to remind myself that there was a life outside of school. Like not all of your success is determined on how you do well, like how well you do in school. Like there's a world outside of school, and I think it was just like so important for me to have that reminder.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, you can do it. It just like it'll take a lot out of you too.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I think the carryover, the like costs outweigh the benefits
The
outweigh the
benefits outweigh the
costs. Yeah,
costs.
there you go.
Yes, definitely. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I think that's how I approach it too. Is like I put in my work in during the week, and I gotta earn my ability to go out Friday night.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But eventually it got to the point where I'm just like, I'm not. Am I really gonna do some studying on Friday night? So at least a mild hangout with some friends,
Mm-hmm.
and then just get back to it on the weekends. Like
Yeah, exactly.
it's really all about balance, and
Mm-hmm.
finding that balance can be hard at first. But I think it's easy. It's okay to be forgiving on yourself to not
Yes.
study all the time.
As grad students, I think we're very hard on ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. I think a very also dangerous word is should. I should be doing this. I should be studying. I should be working out. I should be going over this review. I should be reading this article. I've started to try to use the words I want or I need, or just honestly, just not even using those altogether. Just figuring out like where my priorities are. And just to honestly just stop using that word because it's going to make you feel awful.
Oh, true. Just because you feel the pressure of like, dang, I should be doing this,
Yes.
and then like just even speaking it into existence, just saying it out loud, you're just like putting that pressure on yourself.
And I would especially do that when I was like taking a break or if I was like laying in bed and I'm just exhausted. I'd be like, I should be studying right now. And I'm like, okay, what do I need to be doing?
Yeah.
What is my body telling me that I need to do?
Yeah.
And at that
I
time,
like that.
it would be rest.
I like that better. And then, so now that we've completed our clinicals, we have a taste of what like working life is going to be like. Would you say it's more or less stressful than actual school?
Less. Definitely less. 100% less.
Yes.
Not even comparable.
Yeah.
Not even comparable. Yes. There isn't as much pressure to, again, like memorize and just like regurgitate information. You have time to learn still. So like there are a few moments in clinical that was stressful and like that usually stemmed from moments where I guess like didn't really know what to do with the patient next. But like you can like after clinical, like you can look up things that you should do next time and you can find answers. It's not like a black and white thing. You can also just like talk to the patient and be like, what are your goals? And always recenter your treatment session around their goals. Like there's just so many more answers where you don't need to find just one. There's just so many more opportunities that you can like do well, I guess, as opposed to just like getting an A.
Yeah, exactly. Because you're not under that constant pressure. Because once you go
Mhm.
home, you're pretty much, it's your time to live your life,
Mhm.
and just be happy. And the work-life balance, there's so much easier when you're in
Yes.
clinicals and like when you start working. Like it should be
Mhm.
so much easier. Because you're not working for a grade. You don't have to go home. I mean, you have like research some stuff if you need to, but that doesn't take 6-8 hours,
Yes. Mhm.
versus you have to study for an exam, 3 exams next week, back to back
Yes.
to back.
Mhm.
Like it's a whole
Yeah.
different thing.
Yeah. And like, again, I've like stressed this a lot, but you will continue to learn whether you're trying to or not.
Hmm.
Like for me, again, like my whole thing was like, it was so hard for me to pay attention, but even when I wasn't paying attention, I was still learning. And you don't have to know everything. You don't have to know everything to be in a clinical. You don't have to know everything to be a good PT. You have to know enough. You have to be a good, make good decisions, like, clinically, like rationalize your decision. And I mean, if you put the effort in, like your patient will get better.
Yeah. How would you say you've grown from starting PT school to now?
Oh, wow. Exponentially.
In what
Um,
ways?
let's see. Wow. I have a lot more faith in myself and
Hmm.
belief in what I'm able to accomplish. Um, I think I'm a little bit more forgiving of myself for when I need a break.
Hmm.
That's still something though I honestly struggle with.
That's hard.
It
It's
is
like a skill that you
it
have to
is really hard.
practice.
Yeah. Um, I just the way I see the world is a lot different than I did before PT school, definitely. Like I always thought everyone knew the answer to everything, but like getting older, like no one does. No one really knows what they're doing. um, wow, that's a really good question. I guess again, like believe in myself a lot more.
Yeah.
I've put myself through the ringer and I came out the other end.
Yeah.
There's this really good song called Super Bloom by Mr. Wives. And I feel like that honestly like encapsulates everything that I'm feeling. Um, yeah.
Good stuff. It's crazy
Wow.
that think how much we've grown
Hmm.
in just 3 short years.
Yeah. Professionally, especially, I would
Oh
say.
my God, yeah.
Wow.
Um
I was oof, an idiot. I was so dumb.
I
And
wouldn't say
like
you were
just
dumb. I just think just wasn't at the top of your,
no.
yeah.
Learning was was the number one. And then like being professional was like number 25.
There you go.
Yes. And just like figuring out like how to carry myself and how to kind of be like fulfill that role as a clinician
Yeah.
and showing respect to myself kind of
Hmm.
for like that I should portray myself as a person who went through this training and is a clinician and has at this level of education. Like I owe it to myself to portray myself as someone who did that as opposed to my usual like kind of class clown
Yeah.
kind of personality, if that makes
Hmm.
sense.
No, yeah, for sure. It's
Mhm.
crazy to think. I like when we started, I felt like we were just children, Um,
Literal children.
and then now we're just full-grown doctors, adults,
Yeah.
professionals. Like, how did that happen? It's
Uh,
I don't
Blood, sweat, and tears is how that
literally.
happened.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, just like we're like, I know the phrase professional has been tossed around like, my whole life, like professional athlete, professional cook, professional, yada, yada, yada. And it isn't until you actually become one, you like kind of understand what it means. Like you had to put this career choice or this decision like above everything else. And that means making a lot of sacrifices and like really changing yourself to fit that role.
Hmm.
And I feel like at this side of at the end of it, I can say that I think everyone has.
Yeah, definitely. But at the same time, kind of, you don't want to necessarily change who you are
Mhm.
Yeah, you want to be more professional, but you don't want to change what makes you you. What
Yes, you
makes you
can't
your
fake it.
personality. Yeah.
Yeah, like again, like I will never be that stony faced professional that's like again super serious. Like I will
Yeah,
always be
soup that
joking.
follows the rules to the
Yes.
T, like all of it. Like,
Mhm.
no.
Yeah, and like you just had to carve out your own what your own definition of professional is basically.
Exactly.
Mhm. Don't lose yourself in the process because that's what I kind of did at the end of my second year. And I mean, it was it was like identity crises after identity crisis and like figuring out who I wanted to be, and like kind of that whole aspect. But it has to be like a true aspect of your personality.
Exactly. Oh man, I miss you.
I miss you too.
Me and Colleen used to hang out like a lot. I just hang
Hmm.
out at her place, and then we'd study at the library. Man, yeah. But
Yeah.
with COVID, everything just became like so much harder.
Yeah. It literally became impossible.
Yeah.
But also,
Oh,
you are the busiest person I've ever met in my life.
no, I'm
You
not.
have 20 side hustles.
That's an exaggeration.
Mm,
But guys, Colleen, thank you for hopping
mhm.
on. Do you have any final closing remarks for anyone listening that wants to hear your beautiful voice one last time? Not one last. It'll probably be on another episode later on, but
Yeah.
we'll talk about that later on.
Don't be afraid to be wrong. And honestly, this is so lame. Believe in yourself. You can accomplish things that you would not think of, that you cannot imagine.
Hmm.
It just takes a lot of hard work and effort and commitment, but you can do it.
Yeah, agreed. You'll look back and think, wow, I really grew after
Oh
I put
yeah.
in some effort
Hmm.
and just worked really hard and went through the hardships that is PT school.
Yeah. Yes.
All right. Well, thank you
Hmm.
guys for tuning in. Thank you, Colleen, again. And
Anytime.
we'll see you guys later, guys. Thanks, guys, for tuning in to today's episode of Broken Stressed. If you enjoyed the podcast, make sure to smash that follow or subscribe button to get notified whenever new episodes are released. If you want to connect with me on social media, you can find me on YouTube or Instagram. Thanks again, guys, for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.